Hannah Arendt's On Revolution is a profound and philosophically ambitious reflection on the nature of political revolution. Published in the year 1963, the book explores the fundamental differences between major modern revolutions, primarily the American and the French revolutions, and seeks to understand why some revolutions succeeded in establishing freedom while others devolved into terror or tyranny. Arendt's analysis combines history, philosophy, and political theory in her search for a politics that truly embodies human freedom. Arendt's central concern: freedom and founding. Arendt begins with a central question: what is the essence of revolution? She argues that modern revolutions should not only be seen as violent overthrows of regimes, but rather as founding acts, events where people come together to create a new political beginning. For Arendt, the essential and most radical promise of revolution is freedom, the establishment of a political space where citizens can participate actively in public life. Drawing inspiration from Immanuel Kant, Alexis de Tocqueville, and the American founders, Arendt contrasts two fundamental concepts: liberation and freedom. Liberation refers to the removal of oppression, often economic or authoritarian, whereas freedom refers to the positive creation of a participatory public sphere. The failure to distinguish between these two led many revolutions astray, especially the French Revolution. The French Revolution: From Liberty to Terror. A central pillar of Arendt's argument is her critical evaluation of the French Revolution. She argues that it started with the noble ideal of political liberty, but quickly devolved into chaos and terror. According to Arendt, this degeneration occurred when the revolutionaries shifted their focus from the political realm to the social question, the problem of poverty and inequality. Arendt suggests that Robespierre and his followers transformed the revolution from a political movement concerned with public freedom to one focused on alleviating human suffering. While morally admirable, this shift made the revolution vulnerable to the logic of necessity and violence. Since suffering was universal and unending, it gave revolutionary leaders the justification to impose terror in the name of justice. This turn, Arendt argues, led to a new form of tyranny. The revolutionary government began to act in the name of the people, while suppressing actual political participation. Arendt criticizes the idea of virtue that dominated French revolutionary discourse, which she sees as being tied to moral purity and suspicion, rather than to political freedom. The American Revolution: A Political Triumph. In contrast, Arendt holds up the American Revolution as a more successful model, though not without flaws. The American founders, according to her, managed to avoid the trap of the social question by focusing on creating stable institutions that allowed for public freedom and civic engagement. Drawing on Roman republicanism and Enlightenment ideas, they created a constitutional structure that ensured power would be distributed and constrained. Arendt especially praises Thomas Jefferson and James Madison for their contributions to American political thought. She is particularly interested in Jefferson's idea of ward republics, small local assemblies that would allow ordinary citizens to participate in politics directly. While this vision was never fully realized, Arendt sees it as a crucial expression of her broader ideal: freedom as participation. In this sense, the American Revolution was able to institutionalize freedom rather than dissolve it. It created a new beginning that rested on the active engagement of citizens, rather than on the abstract concept of the general will. The council system and lost possibilities. One of the more radical aspects of On Revolution is Arendt's discussion of councils, or spontaneous grassroots political organizations that appear during revolutionary moments, like the Soviets in Russia before the Bolsheviks' rise, or the revolutionary committees in Hungary in 1956. Arendt believes these councils represent the genuine spirit of political freedom, people coming together to deliberate and act in common. However, these councils rarely survive. Arendt laments that they are often crushed either by external enemies or by emerging revolutionary elites. The councils challenge the centralization of power, which is why authoritarian parties often dissolve them. Arendt suggests that the potential for a new form of participatory democracy existed in these grassroots movements, but history consistently failed to seize it. Revolution, history, and the modern condition. Arendt is keenly aware that revolutions are modern phenomena. In the ancient world, political change took place through conquest or succession, not through the deliberate creation of something new. The idea that history can be interrupted and a new political order consciously constructed is unique to the modern age. She argues that revolutions arise from a new sense of historicity, the awareness that the world is not fixed, and that political institutions can be changed. This realization is both liberating and dangerous. It opens up the possibility of founding freedom, but also the possibility of failure and terror. One of Arendt's most original contributions is her claim that revolutions are about the space of appearance, a term she develops in other works as well. This refers to the public realm, where people act and speak together, revealing themselves as citizens. Arendt is fundamentally concerned with preserving and expanding this space in modern politics. Critique of Marx and the Social Question. Arendt's interpretation of Marxism is another key element of the book. She argues that Karl Marx misunderstood the nature of political freedom. In focusing on the abolition of class and the end of economic exploitation, Marx subsumed politics under economics. Arendt believes that this focus on production and necessity blinds revolutionaries to the uniqueness of political action. According to Arendt, the revolutionary promise of freedom is betrayed when social and economic concerns are allowed to dominate. That is not to say that poverty and inequality are unimportant, but they must not replace the political pursuit of liberty. For Arendt, politics is not about solving problems of survival, it is about acting together to shape the world. Arendt's vision of political renewal. In the final chapters of On Revolution, Arendt calls for a return to the spirit of revolution understood as political founding. She wants modern societies to remember that freedom is not just a private right, but a public practice. The true legacy of revolution lies not in overthrowing regimes, but in founding new institutions that enable collective self-government. She envisions a model of council democracy where small-scale assemblies are the building blocks of a larger republic. These would allow people to develop the political virtues of deliberation, courage, and responsibility. Arendt admits that this vision may seem utopian, but she insists it is rooted in historical experience, not fantasy. Conclusion: reclaiming the political. Hannah Arendt's On Revolution is a passionate and rigorous defense of politics as freedom. It is both historical and philosophical, comparing revolutions not only in terms of their outcomes, but in terms of their deeper meaning. Arendt challenges readers to think about what it means to act politically, and to recognize the fragile but essential space where true freedom emerges. Her work reminds us that revolution is not just about breaking chains. It is about founding new beginnings, new institutions, and new forms of collective life. And in a time when political engagement is often reduced to slogans or elections, Arendt's vision calls us back to a richer, more participatory form of democracy. In placing the American Revolution over the French, in critiquing Marx, and in recovering the promise of the council system, Arendt delivers not a blueprint, but an invitation to rethink what it means to be free and how freedom might be institutionalized without being extinguished.